Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Eternal Life Plan. I've got my Santa hat on today because we're in the Christmas season. And I want to wish you all a happy Advent and a Merry Christmas. I consider this Christmas week because I know Christmas Eve is on Sunday, which we go to Mass. Don't forget to go to Mass on Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Day, which is Monday, got to go to Mass to that too. We get to go to Mass, right? So today's episode is about what I saw. And we have a special guest, a former Church Militant Staffer that will be sharing his letters that were sent. But to set the stage, I want to do that by sharing with you a recent statement by Church Militant's board. And I also want to encourage you to stay to the end because something completely insane happened to me today. And I'll share that with you at the end. It ties into this whole absurdity of Church Militant. So let me start with, now this was apparently they are only sending out statements to their email list. I went on Church Militant's site earlier today. This was not on there at all. I do not know why they're not posting these statements to the website so everybody can see. Church Militant, if you're listening, not everybody's on your email list, right? This should be on your front page. And this is a statement from the board president, Mike Sherry, who I know. He is their IT manager. And as I read this all ties into what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So it's important that we go through this, okay? So it starts out by saying, over the past month, Church Militant has suffered the greatest crisis of its 17-year history, beginning with the scandal that erupted online regarding the apostolate's former leader, michaelvoris. I guess they're saying that had it not been erupted online, nobody would know about this, right? And keep in mind as I read this, they don't take responsibility for anything. Once again, they don't take responsibility for anything. So they go on and say, the evil one took a huge bite out of our apostolate and will stop at nothing other than complete annihilation of this good place. So it's not Church Militant's poor decision making. It's not Church Militant's mismanagement. No, it's the devil. The devil did this. It didn't have anything to do with Church Militant or the board, only the devil. So then he said, they go on, he, being the devil, may get what he wants. We lay at the feet of our Lord and pray for the well-being of those who have gone. Okay. Due to these recent events, an incessant stream of online chatter, much of it painting an inaccurate picture of recent events, has led to perceptions that the apostolate's board of directors has been deliberately uncommunicative and opaque. Well, board members, that's because you are just that, uncommunicative and non-transparent. Had you got out in front of this and told the truth, none of this would be going on and I would not be doing this podcast. But you don't take responsibility, Church Militant. And what we're going to get into later will absolutely prove this. They go on to say, to that concern, oh, those bad people on the internet that leaked this story. The board would like you to know that it is conducting an independent financial audit to prove there has never been any mismanagement of donor funds, either by board members or by Michael Voris. So again, they do not denounce Michael Voris's behaviors at all. They do not accept responsibility. So I guess one time out of 17 years, they're giving themselves a pat on the back for doing a financial audit. And if you have not seen Christine Chrisleib's report on this, I'm going to show you that later. They go on to say the board was never involved in any sort of cover-up for Michael Voris, financially or otherwise, and did in fact ask him to resign immediately upon learning of his personal failings. Really? Really? So let me just say this. Let me just address this. What's coming up will absolutely show that that is not true. And they said it in the very beginning. It was the online chatter that made them come forward. All right. It didn't have anything to do with them wanting to tell donors the truth. Nothing to do with that. It was the online chatter that made them take action. That's really what they're saying. The board fully understands change must take place within its ranks. Finally, it has approved an interview with a possible new director, a non-employee, and will soon replace its current directors who are church militant employees, making sure they too are faithful Catholics who understand the mission of the apostolate. Let me stop there. They may be interviewing people that are non-employees, but they will pick people that will support what it is that they want, which is to bring Michael Voris back. The board and staff are carrying on with the mission of the apostolate. Once again, I've said this over and over. It is not an apostolate. It's a non-profit organization that gets a tax exemption. The salvation of souls. Church Militant is the Christian militia doing battle against sin, the devil, and the demonic, and they're quoting Ephesians 6:12. Rulers of the darkness of this world against spiritual wickedness in high places. Well, Church Militant, does that also include false reporting? How about that? And then they go on to say, the board has created a brand new leadership team, ensuring a more structured model for our employees. They did this after they fired the employees that was trying to get the board's attention to create change within Church Militant. So don't act like that, oh gosh, now you're interested in providing more of a better structure for the employees. I'm so angry about this, everyone. And they go on to say the board has secured a human resource expert in this time of transition and will soon hire one permanently. How many times did people come forward and it's like, why is there no HR here? Now they listen. They act like they didn't know any of this. But it was because of the outrage that now they're going to make these changes. I'm not even going to go into the rest of it. It is just more. I mean, I'm telling you all, they need a washing machine to spin all of this stuff. It is so crazy. So let me get into what I saw. All right. On December 8th, a former staffer, which he wants to remain anonymous, but we had a 2-hour Zoom conference last week, and he went through all of the details and sent me the letters. Some of it is redacted, but I'm going to show you this. But on December 8th, the former staffer, John Doe, sent a letter to the board of directors which are all employees except for one, keep that in mind. He also sent it to the new HR man, and the church militant attorney was also copied in on this letter. As of today, there has been no response that the former staffer, John Doe, has received. And in this conversation, this staffer told me that he had had a conversation with Voris about his workload, how heavy his workload was. And this is a direct quote from Michael Voris. Well, that's why most producers are alcoholics. That is what Michael Voris said to this former staffer who was speaking to Michael Voris in good faith about the work, his workload. And that's the response he got. Keep in mind, everyone, everybody left their families and friends to go and move to Church Militant and work. They were working long hours. So if they weren't in the studio, a lot of the young men were invited after work to go to movies, to go to dinners, to have leadership was asked to have Saturday meetings at Voris's place. Their time was consumed by Michael. They had no way to make friends outside of work or even have a personal life. Just keep that in mind. So I'm going to show you the letter, the redacted letter. Let me get that set up for you. And this letter was sent to the Board of St. Michael's Media on December 8th, as I said. So he goes on to say, in March of this year, Michael broke our Catholic gentleman's agreement by terminating my employment. And keep in mind, Hunter said the same thing. He had turned in a 2-week notice to leave in June because he was going to honor that 2-year commitment. And this former staffer was going to honor it too. But wait and see what happens. This former staffer, this former staffer goes on by saying, I would like to briefly note that my termination quickly followed my delivering a letter to Michael, alerting him to the harassment and predatory behavior of his friend and then Chief of Staff, Simon Rafe. This is another person that I have talked to over the last 3 weeks that had issues with Simon Rafe. He is another problem there. So this person expressed his concerns to Voris on March 15th. He was one of the people that was fired on March 30th. You see how the retaliation works? And the 5 people that came together to confront the board about Michael Voris in November, they were all fired in December too. See how this works? They get rid of all of the people that have issues with the way they've been treated. It's retaliation. So he says, I'm attaching as an appendix the relevant portion of said letter, and victims and witnesses will support the claims therein if identified and asked. My point is that despite having been betrayed by Michael Voris, I'm committed to the well-being of St. Michael's Media and the advancement of the organization's authentic Catholic mission. To that end, I deliver the following advice, which I hope is received in the same spirit in which it is given one of authentic Christian charity seeking the whatever that word is of Catholic truth. Sorry, guys, I'm not a big word person. I'm simple. If Church Militant, number one, if Church Militant is to survive as any kind of reputable, credible entity, and indeed for the good of your own souls, as they said in their newsletter, then a statement must be issued regarding Michael Voris's breach of the Church Militant morality clause. Once again, I've said over and over, they have not denounced his behavior. The statement needn't be callous or well, you guys know what that means. But Church Militants, donors, and supporters have committed their time, energy, money, and prayers to exposing corruption and duplicity in the Catholic world. It would be hypocrisy in the highest degree not to release a statement regarding Michael's violation of the morality clause. They haven't done that, have they? Moreover, if any organization purportedly dedicated to the exposure of predominantly homosexual misdeeds and their cover-up amongst Catholic leaders and the condemnation of hypocrisy were to itself engage in all three, homosexual misdeeds, cover-up, and hypocrisy simultaneously, that organization would rightly and justly lose all credibility and earn the disdain and even vitriol of people of good character, sound judgment, and strong moral fiber. It would be beneficial if this statement included an apology. People are far more likely to forgive those who admit their wrongs and ask for forgiveness than those who worsen their sins and crime by ignoring their commission. The longer you wait to publish such statement, the worse the subsequent fallout will be. At least one individual that I know of has already made public the allegations against Michael. I myself have been able to discover what they are. And if I can do that with only a handful of emails and phone calls, then so can anyone who truly wishes to cripple what little is left of St. Michael media. You must make this information public. Absolutely. Absolutely. Number two, and keep in mind, he has never received a response from the board. Number two, Michael Voris must never be permitted back. He must be stripped of any affiliation of St. Michael's media, removed from his position as an advisor to the board, and some form of resolution must be passed formally, barring him from affiliation or collaboration with St. Michael's media in any form or iteration in perpetuity. Now, he's supposedly a non-voting member of the board still. To permit him back would be to doom the organization to the aforementioned ignominies, I think is how you pronounce that, and even to potentially damn souls. Michael's not least of all. The Catholic Church, as we all know, classifies homosexuality as a disorder. Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2357. And the commissions of homosexual acts to be of grave depravity. Such acts grievously wound and distort the soul, and much time is needed for penance and healing. To allow Michael Voris to return to any role with St. Michael's media would be to deny him this opportunity for time, penance, and healing, and instead to invite him to become completely consumed with work, to indulge in grandstanding, and to slip into narcissism, a form of pride which would worsen whatever wounds he is already grappling with. Furthermore, to allow Michael Voris to continue any affiliation with St. Michael's media, or to reignite any affiliation with St. Michael's media at some future point, would be to undermine whatever good work he and many, many others would have sacrificed their time, energy, and even dignity to serving Catholics through St. Michael's media. Did manage to achieve, and again, for aforementioned reasons. So there's a few more points and then just bear with me here. Church Militant and St. Michael's Media need to be completely and totally rebranded. The name, the logo, the little sound effects and stings, all of it will only ever be affiliated now with Michael's betrayal of his staff and faithful Catholics and his return to homosexual activity. The organization needs to be rebranded top to bottom. So I'm not going to keep reading that because it's all about branding. Number 4, I've also become aware of any offer from Truth Army to purchase St. Michael Media Church Militant's assets and move over their staff with equitable pay and benefits, something I can personally attest Church Militant staff was sorely lacking before. I would strongly advise you to accept that offer. You cannot know this, not being outsiders, but instead of being embroiled in the internal turmoil at St. Michael's Media. But the outside world is waiting for St. Michael's Media and Church Militant to die. The organization is at this point almost completely discredited and is seen as crippled, hemorrhaging staff, donors, and plain old audience members at a fatal pace. You will not get any offer of this kind from anyone else on the outside. That is absolutely true. This offer presents the rare opportunity of having someone from the inside, someone who knows the good that St. Michael's Media staff are capable of, someone who has proven his mettle in the outside world, and someone who cares deeply for the organization, return to restore St. Michael's Media to what it should have been in the first place. And who he's talking about is Joe Gallagher. Joe Gallagher is a part of, what's the name of it? Truth Army. He's part of the Truth Army. So in some nation, if the board continues St. Michael's Media's current trajectory, sorry about that, ladies, gentlemen, with what little is left of the organization will end up in abject ignominy, and I'm probably saying that wrong, and scandal, and will end thus with appalling quickness. So, and that goes on from there. So what I want to get into, though, is the excerpt from the letter to Michael Voris regarding Simon Rafe that this former staffer sent to the board. Now, he sent this letter to Michael on March 15th. Keep in mind, he was terminated on March 30th. So here's a little thing you guys don't know. All of the staff was brought in one at a time and asked on a scale of 1 to 10, are you staying at Church Militant? Would be 10, or 1 is no, you're planning on leaving and looking elsewhere and will be leaving. Every one of the staff, the staff was brought in and asked this question. So the people, even the people that said, and this staffer, former staffer was one of them, that he was going to stay. He was, I think you told me he was an 8 or a 9 of staying. They fired him. And it's probably because of this letter. So here's the excerpts. I say personnel notes, but honestly, this section was just focused on one individual. I'm going to be as delicate as possible with this section because that one person is sort of a high up in CM. Again, I want to stress that nothing I say is intended to be rude or unkind. I am genuinely only sharing my thoughts and observations because I love CM and want the best for the apostolate. I don't know if this came up in the powwow with the boys, and he's saying this to Michael Voris, but Simon Rafe needs to be addressed. Simon is supposedly our chief of staff, and I don't think anyone quite understands what he does in that role. Presumably, since we don't have an HR department, Simon is supposed to be sort of our HR guy. If that's the case, he fails objectively. Other than annual reviews, it isn't apparent how he functions, as someone who is the chief of the staff. First of all, Simon takes on too many roles. He's chief of staff, but he also hands in technology, formatting content, despite his protest that he wants nothing to do with content. He does insert himself into content decisions and hosting shows. Secondly, Simon's behavior towards female employees is disconcerting. I've observed this too, as I have shared, both to those who witness it and to those female employees themselves. Concerns have been shared with me in confidence, and you'll understand why below, about how Simon behaves around female employees. I won't betray that confidence, but if you were to ask around confidentially, you'd quickly have a list. Some female employees have complained that Simon invades their personal space too often and for too long. Some male employees have witnessed this. Some female employees have also reported odd and frankly inappropriate comments Simon has made on the subjects of love, romance, attraction, and even marital fidelity. I've heard this too. To be perfectly blunt, Simon's behavior toward female employees unnervingly resembles Frank Pavone's. And I won't go into that right now, maybe another time. I myself find it more than just disconcerting. I find it grossly unprofessional and even predatory. Yes, it is predatory. Thirdly, remember I told you all, I think it was in, I don't know, remember which video it was, that he would walk around the studio with his hands in his pockets, just staring at people. And he would walk up to certain women at Church Militant and get right into their personal space. It was creepy. Thirdly, members of staff feel Simon may or will retaliate against them if certain complaints are voiced. So keep in mind, if he's the HR guy, who are you going to go to complain about Simon, the HR guy? Do you see how they insulate themselves from everything? And I know there was a bunch of comments that say, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you say something? There was no one to say anything to. And this former staffer said it to michaelvoris and ends up getting fired. Do you get it? The complaints above regarding female employees are among those concerns. Additionally, no one wants to tell Simon to get off camera, though there are several who hold that opinion because they fear Simon may use his position to retaliate against them by issuing demotions, withholding pay, raises, or by some other means. And that was exactly what Christine Chrisleap had said when she went to Simon. Those were her concerns too. She wanted a whistleblower policy to protect employees that would come forward about him or Michael or anyone and be protected. But guess what? Simon didn't think that a whistleblower policy was necessary. Do you see? One of our chief goals at Church Militant is pursuit of truth. I myself am appalled that employees striving to serve Holy Mother Church feel the need to withhold truth, suppress their own suggestions, and put up with what is, at best, highly unprofessional behavior from a senior figure in the apostolate because they fear for their jobs or their paychecks. That's an environment that could rightly be labeled toxic. Again, I hope these thoughts and suggestions will be received in the same spirit on which they were delivered. I mean, no respect towards anyone. I certainly don't want to overstep my bounds, and I have at heart only the good of the apostolate. So this was sent to the board and to michaelvoris. Keep that in mind. Unbelievable, right? I mean, a former staffer that sent me these letters and that appendix to be read online. He did not want to come online because, like many former employees I've talked to over the last 2 weeks, they want to distance themselves as much as possible from Church Militant. Matter of fact, they've told me they're not even putting Church Militant on their resumes because it's because of their reputation. And they're lying to the donors still. They have not denounced Michael Voris. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple of more things before I get into questions. And then when I share with you what happened today. All right. The famous pit meeting that happened in November, right after work. So, didn't do it during work. Oh no. Michael held everybody for 2.5 hours after work to scream and yell at them. All right. He had a set of, I think there were 10 or 20 statements that he read out loud, and then the employees all had to read it out loud. And one of those is, this just gives you an idea of the emotional abuse that was going on there and the verbal abuse that was going on there. I know a lot of people have said in comments over my videos, well, he didn't do anything criminal. You don't, oh my gosh, it's like nobody said he did anything criminal, but there needs to be workplace boundaries set up. And every single person needs to have their own boundaries. And we're going to get into Thursday evening at 7 p.m. I'm bringing Lynn on, who was on 2 Retreat by the Sea cruises of Church Militant. She has done massive research on cult behavior, idolatry behavior, and pornography. She's going to tie in some of these pieces as well. But there was verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual harassment going on at Church Militant. And one of the items that Michael had them say all out loud at this 2.5 hour screen session was this: admit you don't have the skills that it takes to succeed. They all had to repeat that back to him. That is cult right there. That is cult. Admit you don't have the skills that it takes to succeed. What did he tell Hunter? He told Hunter, you need me as your mentor. He told another staffer, former staffer, you can't make it in the real world. Folks, that's narcissism. And we're going to get into that with Lynn on Thursday evening at 7. I have not posted that yet, but you'll want to make sure you see that. So let me get into some of your questions. I will try to make this Pat, do you know of any possible sexual harassment lawsuits? No, I don't. I don't, Pat. I don't know if, these people, they didn't make much money. They can't afford to hire these lawyers to do this. Church Militant knows that. But thanks for your question, Pat. Pat also asked, have any major donors tried contacting you? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I have talked to a few. Absolutely. Donors, major donors, staffers, former staffers, premium subscribers, just all, you have no idea how my phone, I think I spent almost 14 hours last week just talking on the phone with people. I spent an hour this morning talking to Lynn and going over, hearing her story and going over what we'll be reviewing Thursday evening. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions, to be honest with you. So who wrote the letter? David Gordon? No, it was not David Gordon. This person wanted to remain anonymous. David Gordon already has put out there his letter to the board. This is another letter from another former staffer. So no, this is not the letter from David Gordon. Mm-mm. Can you tell us what the original mission of Church Militant? Yeah, the original mission was to teach the faith. They started that series, The One True Faith, and it came about because we were not being catechized by our own priests in our own parishes. So that's how that all came about, was to teach Catholics the faith. And boy, did it just kind of went well for a few years, and then Michael moved closer and closer out of that into politics, and then it just, you know. Okay, Super Ginger Mutts says, has anyone noticed that Church Militant doesn't have a disc forum on any of their threads since Forrest left? Yes, they have shut down comments on their website. That is true. Okay, Craig asked, what chances are Joe Gallagher taking charge at CM? I'm going to say slim to none, because the board Joe doesn't want Voris to come back. And they're going to put, like I said in the beginning, they will get non-employees on the board that will side with what they want to do. Just like Pope Francis, who's appointing these cardinals to make sure that when he dies and the next conclave is voting for the next pope, that what he has started will continue. And that's exactly what Church Militant's board is doing. They'll appoint people that will support what they want. That's why they just need to go away. So, Christine, where was all the donor money going if it wasn't used to pay employees a livable wage? Well, we know that Voris went from making, I think, $54,000 in 2014 or 2017 to $100,000 in 2021. If you pull up their 990 for 2021, all those board members are paid very well, and I can tell you for a fact that that is bogus pay for them. I mean, they never met, they never had board meetings, they never discuss financial issues, and they're paid $74,000. Come on. And then it's alleged that, and I've heard this from more than one place, so I'm sure it's not, we won't find out until 2025, because they're always 2 years behind posting their 990s. They do that for a reason, right? They do that for a reason. and they don't want people to know. So they delay posting their 990s. And we won't know until probably 2025 what Voris and Simon Rafe were paid in 2023. And everyone, I've been told by more than one person that Voris and Rafe, after the layoff of 20 people, gave themselves a $10,000 raise, which means that Voris would now be making $110,000. And I think that would put Rafe up to around maybe 94,000 or 84,000. I don't remember what he was getting paid, to be honest with you. It was way too high, I can tell you that. Let me go through. See, Noel, you don't think the devil was trying to tempt Michael Voris through his weaknesses? The only news agency that put the fear of God in pedophile priests is no longer doing that work. No, I wasn't saying that the devil wasn't trying to tempt Michael Voris. I'm saying that the board's statement that the devil was in all of this, come on. We all have free will. Every decision we make that's a bad decision doesn't mean it was a temptation by the devil. We cannot blame the devil for every poor choice we've made. You just can't do it. Most people don't even consult God for their decisions. So I'm not saying that Voris wasn't tempted. Anytime that we are in mortal sin, yes, that's probably a temptation from the devil, but you can't blame it all on the devil. That's all I'm saying. Okay, Archangel 1187 said, Christine, are there enough committed former church militant employees that can regroup and get on with forming a new group committed to catechizing? I don't know. In order to do that, they would need donors and sponsorships. That's the other thing that Christine Chrisley, and let me show you her website because I wanted to show this to you guys real quick. Christine Chrisley went to them many times to try to get them to sign on to doing sponsorships, and they wouldn't do it. So her part one is the entire board should resign. And you can go to trustbutverifyreport.substack.com, and I'll put the link below in the description after this video is finished. And then the part two, another dynamic founder goes off the rails, Church Militant's Menage a Trois, which is very good too. I just want to encourage you to go and read this because this is what donors need to read. Christine Chrisley is, her background was nonprofit work and fundraising, and all donors need to read her articles. She's very good. Okay. Okay, I think that's all of the questions. So let me share with you what I received today. So when I was talking to Lynn today, she shared with me something, but I want to share with you first what I got. I got this Merry Christmas card, and guess who it's from? Church Militant, asking me to donate $50. I can't imagine why in the world. And they even sent me a a stamped envelope. They didn't even scrub their email list. Why would they send this to me? And then in the course of the conversation, Lynn showed me hers. And in hers, they asked her for $100. And then someone texted me who wants to remain anonymous. They got one in the mail too, a former staffer asking their mother to donate $200. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, right? It just shows the incompetence. Okay, we got new comments here. Let me see. Oh, Viva Cristo Ray says, I got one too today. I was like, are you kidding? M. Coleman says, lots of laugh. We got one as well. David Wilson said, send a card back asking for a refund. Yeah, that's a good idea. So this just gets crazy. And I really want to, first of all, I want to thank you all for being with me through all of this. And it's been a lot. It's been really weighed on my mind, a lot of things that I heard that I cannot share. Even this former staffer told me some things. And by the way, he and I work together. So I know who he is. He and I work together. And he even shared some things with me that I wasn't aware of. There's so much that what I have reported to you doesn't even scratch the surface. That's why I am telling you with all the honesty in me, the board is still not being honest. For them to say they didn't know, that is BS, folks. But I really do appreciate you all watching. If you would give me a thumbs up and like the video and share it, the algorithms, whatever that means, I don't know. Okay, here's a question here. Kevin, what was the relationship between John Mala, Concept Communications, Concept Productions, Real Catholic TV, and Michael Voris? So, Kevin, I don't know about John Mola. I do know there is a connection with Real Catholic TV and Michael Voris and Mark Bramer. But that's all that I know on that front. I'll have to look into that for you. That's all I know about that. I don't know much about, the beginning of Church Militant. But I can tell you this, it really has changed over the years. And you can see Michael's vortexes, kind of going from, I won't say positive because they were never really positive, but he was getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And we're going to talk about that Thursday evening on why that is. When you can't control yourself or control others, it sometimes comes out in anger. It does. I love the videos you make. Great. Oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate you guys. And then Viva, Cristo Ray says, John was MV's former friend. Oh, okay. All right. I'll look into that. I did not know that. Sometimes I rely on you guys to give me information because I did not know that. Thank you for letting me know. And I just want to show you real quick, here's how you can contact me. eternallifeplan@gmail.com, eternallifeplan@gmail.com. And that's where, if you've got questions for me, or if you've got information you want me to uncover, just reach out to me there. And I try to get back as soon as I can. I'll tell you, it's been pretty overwhelming hearing from donors and premium subscribers and former employees. I was on the phone with this one former staffer for 4.5 hours. And I learned some things like this creed, or this statement that Voris made everybody say: admit you don't have the skills that it takes to succeed. Can you imagine? I mean, in my corporate environment, if a boss did that, they would be fired immediately. And don't tell me the board didn't know this. Come on. Will you bring in E. Michael Jones on your show? Probably not. And there's a reason for that I won't get into publicly. So contact me at eternallifeplan@gmail.com. Any other questions before we go? Doesn't look like. So you guys, you know how this ends, right? Eternal life is forever. Got a plan? Make sure your plan is Jesus. I want you all to have a happy rest of the Advent week. Have a Merry Christmas. Know from the bottom of my heart that I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your support, your comments, your thoughts, your vision, things that I don't know. I'd love to hear too. I'll admit when I don't know something. If I need to correct something, I'll correct it as well. So thank you all. And there was one more thing don't forget Thursday night, and I'll post it on my YouTube channel and on X, which is formerly Twitter, so you can be sure and watch. So that'll probably be the last one until after Christmas. And I've got some things planned for the following week. So until then, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Bye-bye.